Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Hello, hello, hello. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt completely lost? You know, seeking purposeful direction that could and should propel your mission within your divine journey to that next level, but still it hasn't happened. Well, my name is Lauren Michaels Harris, and I'm the founder of P3, the Journey Series. People come to me because they're wounded. Many are scared, and even there are those who are bruised simply because they feel that they are increasingly, for whatever reason, losing their ability to dream. Now, this P3 program is not for a person who's just looking to start a business, no, but rather for those of you out there who have been on your journey and you've been navigating within your divine purpose, but you still desire to elevate to that level that you have not reached yet. If this is appealing, if this describes you, then I want to have a chat with you. I want to hear your story. So use the link below to get registered for your free seat at P3, the Journey Series. And let's get started, one story at a time. I'll see you inside. Click the link. It is Monday. I know. I didn't even fool myself. I'm kidding. I'm glad it's Monday because Monday means there'll be a Tuesday. How was your weekend? I had a great weekend. Guess what I did? Well, I tried something different. We went, where did we go? We went bowling Friday night, Brian and I. And then Saturday, I forced myself to do absolutely butkus. Nothing. I didn't do anything. I did whatever I wanted to do. And it was not easy. I kept, Jed, please, okay. Jed Clampett wants to know what in tarnation happened to the weekend. Well, it went by just like every day goes by. Live it as if it were your last because one day you're going to be right. And so I didn't do anything Saturday, which was very nice, I have to admit. And then yesterday, I made up for it. We had to bring everything in and shut the deck down, and it's getting blustery here in the Windy City. I even posted. We couldn't do anything Saturday, even if we wanted to outside. The winds, we had a high wind advisory the entire day. Things were blowing all over the place. Somebody's umbrella came flying through our yard. I don't know. Okay, I see Xfinity is going to try to play games with us today. I rebuke it. I'm sending it away. All things that do not serve me must go, including you, Xfinity, when trying to come in and out here. No. And to my guest who is in the green room waiting to come on, I can't wait, Brett D. Scott. If that should happen during today's show, keep going. I'll be back eventually when I get out of Xfinity prison. It's not just Facebook anymore. So any announcements? Well, yeah. Okay, really quickly. Wait, real quick. Never mind. What's that rule? English. Trajectory TV launched last week, you guys. So excited. We're live and up. Get over to the E360 app, download it, and check out all the great content. It's where content can. Uh-oh. Was that a senior moment? Nope, I'm rebuking that too. That was just a stumble, not a senior moment. I will not have it. Anyway, trajectory is where content meets direction. So everybody there, all of the show hosts, know what they're doing and they are ready to pour into you. So get over and check out the great listings. More and more coming every day. Wednesdays, License for Love, the iHeartRadio show, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast content. Check us out. A new episode with Cowboy Jax Young of Nashville, Tennessee, and myself, where we are the diversity duo bringing you the heartbeat in relationship conversation. A new episode drops every Wednesday. Catch it. Just ask Alexa to play it for you. Congratulations to Triple Nickel. They're in goals. It started the other day, and I am a brand ambassador, clearly. What is that up there? There. And this is a Triple Nickel shirt. They sponsored the Power Week Symposium and provided all of our t-shirts. I'm sitting on a pillow so that you could see it, but clearly I need a booster seat. Man, am I getting shorter as I get older? Not if I can help it. So today's guest, who, by the way, Brett D. Scott, I never received a bio from you. So I just made up some shit. I'm kidding. I went over to his website. Well, I know he's a TEDx speaker. He has a book, triple best-selling book. How does that happen? I Fly, I believe is the name of it. He's got just so many different things. Let me see. Let me find something here I can read. Success. This is from his website. He is the founder of Supercharged Freedom. He is a superhero, and we're going to talk about how that happens. Success in life of freedom certainly are the fruits that Brett has picked from the ripe trees of his choosing. Some of the fruits include his own successful multi-six-figure coaching business, where there's over 100 episodes of his podcast. He's an award-winning and best-selling author, TEDx talk speaker, man to watch. Is that like the People Magazine Sexiest Man Alive? I wonder. He is a man to watch award winner amongst many other accolades. He's modest. He said a few others, but I know for a fact there are quite a few. So he has never been here. So you know what we do.
We are very nice. We use our inside voices. We applaud by putting hearts on the screen, right? If you get lazy, I'm going to prompt you. But let's welcome Brett as he pours into us to kick this week off. Here he comes, you guys. Let's do a standing ovation on the screen with hearts, shall we? Because here he comes, our good friend, Brett D. Scott from the land down under. Kangaroos and koalas, oh my. Hi, Brett. Wait, I forgot one thing. It's sitting right here.
Okay.
Here's another thing I forgot to tell you guys. Mark the calendars, December 12th. Peacock, the movie, Heathen is there. Thank you. Brett, welcome to the show. How are you?
My friend, very grateful to be here. It is midnight here in Australia.
Wait a minute. I swear I see sunlight bouncing off the left side of your face. That's not sunlight?
No, that's a studio light. Studio light.
Oh, I thought it was a bright, sunshiny morning. Where are you?
No,
Exactly.
I'm in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, and I actually had to have a little rest before I got up to come and be with you because I'm not a night owl, Lauren. I don't know if I told you this, but I'm a morning person. But
it's 11 p.m. there, right?
No, it's actually 12:13 a.m.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Wait, I got to write that down. So when it's 8 a.m. here, it's midnight.
Midnight,
right?
Yeah, in Australia. So, but that's okay. And look, but just for your knowledge, Lauren, you're the first person that I've stayed up this late to do a show for.
Oh, well, it depends on how you define show. Da, 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 da. Okay, we'll save that for bathroom moments after dark. We used to have that. We used to have that actually. I'm just glad you're here. Thank you for staying awake. I couldn't do it. When I have that, like India, I think is one of the places when I have to speak there, I have to go to bed, set an alarm, get up, take a shower, get dressed. Like you have 2 days in one. It's really a challenge, but we get it done. I'm glad you're here. What I usually do, Brett, is I dip out for a second, let you say and have a couple minutes with the audience privately. I'll pop back in, just say hello and fill in the blanks. There was a lot that I didn't get to tell them, so you can do that, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, I want to say a huge thank you to you for tuning in this morning for you and very early morning for me. I did catch Lauren talking about a number of things that I have done. The number one thing is that I had a big breakdown moment, which I'm sure Lauren will dig into back in 2014.
Got that right.
And then 4 years later, I finally had a proper breakthrough, and that took me on the journey, first of all, to heal elements of myself, and then really made the decision that I'd been delivered a gift in my deepest, darkest moment, and made the decision to help others to have their own breakthroughs. And that's something I continue to do today. And my business of coaching people has expanded, and I've now got a CEO who runs the coaching arm of our business. And keynote speaking is something I love to do. I've got a TEDx talk called How to Unleash Your Inner Superhero, which is on YouTube.
Well, we're actually going to peek at it today.
You had a peek at it today? Yeah. So
yeah, we're going to show some of it.
Oh, awesome.
Okay. A couple minutes after TEDx.
Oh, that's amazing. Yes. Right. And look, it's funny, isn't it? Like, Lauren, I'm sure you probably feel the same when you go on this sort of journey where you decide to do something that is more purposeful. You recognize and realize that as you're going along that journey, that so many other things will come into your life that you have the opportunity to do. Some things very scary, some things that, you just know are going to make a difference to other people's lives. And I think for me, that's the thing that I focus in on. And, in regards to, creating books like Supercharge Freedom, Your Truth Will Set You Free, Shameless plug. On the back here, I don't know if you can see that, it says, "Can you teach an old dog new tricks?" And the answer to that is yes. Yes, you can.
Sure can.
Lauren mentioned, how do you get a triple best-selling book? Well, this was a triple best-selling book on Amazon. #1 bestseller in 3 different categories. That's how you get a triple bestseller. And it was the 2020. It was a 2020 Stevie Award winner. It was a Silver Stevie Award winner for Book of the Year back in 2020, and it was included in the Oscars gift bag in 2021 for the nominated attendees. So it was a very highly awarded book. Wow. And it's basically it's 20 authors. So I'm one of the authors in there. True stories of overcoming adversity. And so, you know, this journey of as I mentioned before, this journey of breakthrough, this journey of breakdown, first of all, this journey of understanding that, you know, I think for most people, you know, and you probably get this a lot, Lauren, yourself, most people are just living life and maybe not even really doing that very well. And I know for myself, before I went on this journey, it was definitely, I was a victim to whatever was going on in the world and thinking that I didn't really have a lot of control. Okay. And wishing and hoping and all of those things.
But wait a minute.
Yeah.
I got to back it up. Back that thing up. I got to back it up. I'm confused. When you say, before I went on this journey, because I believe, you know, like I agree 1,000% when you say there usually is a breakdown prior to the breakthrough. But wouldn't you say, Brett, that no matter where we are at any given point, we're still on the journey?
Oh, without a doubt.
Right. Without a doubt. A lot of people think that when they, with the awakening, now I'm in the journey. No. How do you think you got there?
True. Yeah. And look, I guess the reason I say the journey, as in now I'm actually living,
is a new phase of the journey.
Yeah. The reason I call it the journey, the reason I call it the journey for myself is that, you know, I mentioned that word about living a more purposeful life. For me, I started living properly in November of 2018. That's when I really said, you know what, I'm not, and it definitely wasn't these words, and I'm sure you had a similar experience yourself, Lauren, but I remember sort of saying to myself, enough is enough. I've got to actually do something properly this time, because every time I would sort of head along that road of doing something where I thought I'm going to get some success or I'm going to achieve something, invariably I'd get to a certain degree or a certain level and I'd find a way to stuff it up. And there were different F words that I might use as well.
I saw that on your website. I was like, is that a typo? So let's go to it. Let's go right to that deep pain moment. I remember something about you were working somewhere and somebody brought you some kind of report or something and it was all messed up. Something was wrong. Yes. It's been wrong for a while. And it sounded like you subsequently ended up losing that job or leaving that job. Tell us about this. Was this the 2018 time that you were talking about?
No, this is August of 2014 that you're talking about. Yeah, so August of 2014. I'll give it a quick. I'll condense it. So that we can
digest version.
Yeah, so we can fill in a few gaps. So
sure.
So let's go back to August of 2014. What essentially happened was, for 18 months that I've been working for this particular company, who ended up working for them for over 6 years. And so I didn't lose my job, and I'll get to that part. But what happened was I had over invoiced. So I was a contractor to this company, even though I was their sales manager. And I had over invoiced, not on purpose, but certainly it was my mistake. And I had over invoiced for 18 months. Now that total wasn't a small sum for me back then. When I look at some of the income I earn now, probably wouldn't have thought it was such a big deal, but it was a big deal to the point where it was around 60,000 Australian dollars, which is about 20,000 US. No, it's about I think we're about half of you. Anyway, the point was it was a big enough amount that I could no longer work in the same capacity. And it was, I refer to it as the straw that broke the camel's back, because this wasn't necessarily, even though, I might say, well, I didn't purposely go out to do it. I caused the issue. I caused the problem. And it wasn't isolated, as in I was with my then wife at the time for, we were married almost 9 years, almost 12 years together. We were finally pregnant. I was 39, turning 40 at the time. So I was going to be an older father for the first time as well, which I am, which I still am. My son was born. But the problem was that my poor wife at the time, who's, by the way, for everyone listening, we have a good relationship now. We're not together, but we definitely have a good relationship. But back then, back then it certainly was a situation where, she's pregnant. Her husband now has caused a situation where there's no income. We just bought a new car. We just moved to our dream location. We had used our savings to invest in a couple of businesses that hadn't yet taken off. So we had nothing, and so it was, as I'm sure you'd agree with any situation you've had, Lauren, in the past where it is a breakdown moment. In the moment, I remember thinking to myself, maybe I should just take my own life, because
I knew it.
Yeah, because
like everything was imploding. It felt that way.
It felt that way, right? And I remember thinking, how on earth did I get here? I don't know if anyone's had this feeling.
What'd you come up with?
Well, the first thing was, it was a spiral of taking and by the way, I've always been a very positive person, but in this instance, I remember just going on that victim rampage of just thinking, I'm 39, turning 40. I had been a top real estate agent in 2 different cities, yet I didn't own a home. And yet, looking back in that moment, I can remember thinking, I can see where I stuffed up every single time. And I thought, what
was it?
Well, I didn't know for another 4 years, and we'll mention the breakthrough, but I just want to quickly share this one thing, which is when I stopped my pity party, because that's essentially what I was doing. I was on the biggest pity party that could have ever happened. But I remember starting to cry for the first time. And when I say cry for the first time, I mean cry for the first time as an adult that I can remember. And that's pretty sad, right? That's pretty sad. Maybe it's typical male as well. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But when I started to cry, I remember saying to myself, that's it. I said, I never want to be in a situation like this again. In fact, when I figure out how to fix myself, I actually had this idea. When I figure out how to fix myself, I should write a book. This one, I should write a book and help other stupid men like me figure out how to fix their life. Now, this particular book, it's not just for men, it's for women. It's for anyone.
Wait, I'm stopping you. I'm stopping you. Because everybody, I'm holding my breath, and I know y'all are too. So we just gonna back it up again and get on back to this pity party. Let's call it
pity party. All right.
P squared, pity party.
Yep.
So, because I'd like to, even on Oprah, she'll show the boy who lost his arm and crawled in the house and didn't want to bleed on his mother's carpet. But we never hear about, what were you thinking when you were crawling half a block to the house? Yeah. What was the conversation? Everybody skips over when,
that's a good point.
I guess I want to go here.
Yeah.
Was the pity party pre-explosion? Or after,
no,
post
after
explosion?
Yeah, it says post. Yeah, so
let's go before it though. What was going on, Brett, that led to this? And it's not like we wake up in one day, oh my God, look, I've really fucked up everything. you must know something when you're in the
Mm.
process that doesn't quite feel right. What
Yeah.
did you
Okay.
think you were doing, but didn't realize the extent of what you were actually doing? What was that thing?
Yeah. So good question. I'm glad you went back. So here it is. I knew the one thing I did know, right? I didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing, but what I was always doing was sweeping things under the carpet. I was not being
Oh.
truthful with my partner in different instances. And so there was a build-up, right? Of course. And, I often think about that analogy, the feather, the rock, and the bus, and I definitely had a feather and a rock, and this was my bus. And so the thing that was really going on was, number one, and this again wasn't something I realized until 4 years later, exactly the extent, but I was not being truthful. That's why this book was originally going to be
Ah,
called,
so
The Truth Will Set You Free.
mm,
And then it was going to be Your Truth Will Set You Free, because as we know, we all have a different truth.
so wait,
Yeah.
wait. Okay, follow me here for a minute. Follow
Okay.
me.
I'm following.
So
I'm
the fourth
following.
agreement, did you even know about that when you were doing this?
No, no.
So what
Always do
were
your
you?
best. Yep.
So you were clearly moving up. You were successful. You guys had found your dream location. You're having a baby. On the outside, it looked like everything was falling in place.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, but what were you basing these accomplishments on? How did you think? Were you okay? Here it is. It seems like you were building a house out of sticks.
Yep,
And something huffed and
definitely.
puffed and blew that house down.
Oh
So
yeah,
what's the difference? What is if you could point to one thing,
yeah,
Brent, that you know now that you didn't know then, that
yep,
changed out those sticks for bricks, what
yeah.
would that one thing be?
Well, it would be the word truth, but it would also be responsibility, right? I
So
think
did the truth
the
not
big,
matter to you at the time? I mean, how did you justify it
yeah.
inside? We know when we're doing something right or if we're doing something that's not integral. We know that. It's called conscience. So what do
Yeah.
you think it was that made you not give a damn?
So, and that's the point, right? Like, I think there's varying degrees. We might think you're either telling the truth or you're not, but there's
Oh,
varying degrees. There's varying degrees, and I think the problem with most people is that they think, well, and this was my level of thinking at the time, which was, well, if I'm not impacting someone, or if it's not, if it's to do with me, not to do with them, then it doesn't really matter. And that's why I often hear people being, you know, a little bit untruthful, kind of skirting around the edges.
wait,
And look, here's the reason why.
wait.
Okay.
Is that even possible?
Yes.
To be a little bit untruthful.
Wow, no. But yes, no,
Truth is the
yes.
only thing in the universe I know of, Brent, that we cannot change. Because even if
Yeah.
we give it a version, the real truth is still sitting right next over there, waiting for somebody else to pick up the whole thing, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you something greater than yourself. So
So I think,
can we really see that's
yeah,
what I don't like? It's like some people believe, well, it was just a little white lie.
a
Well, it's
white
just
lie. That's
bending the
it.
truth.
Yeah. Yep.
Those are the things I think that don't serve us, that
Yeah.
lull us into, trick us into serving them
Yep.
because we justify it. How do you think that became a thing? Because right now, somebody out there listening is thinking that same thing. Well, I know I'm not as bad as so and so, or it could be worse. Well, at least I'm not da. But then eventually, it's the same mouth that swallows everyone up that
Do you
does that.
know it's different, and in my experience in the work I do, it's different with every person. But what I can tell you is it's self-worth, right? It's
Mm.
our internal self-image. And what I'd say to you is, over the years, what was happening was, externally I might look a certain way, but internally I was continually tearing that image up. And part of it was by skirting around the truth, right? And
Mm.
I agree with you.
Talk about
It's either
here
truth or it's not.
okay, so here we
Yeah.
go. Because I've been there
Yeah.
seriously, where I was living multiple versions. None of them were truly me. I was not transparent.
Yeah.
I kept, how God broke me of that, or greater than, source, spirit, universe, take your pick.
Yep.
Broke me or started pushing me up to the demarcation mark where I could break it myself. This curse that I had, this covenant I had written, an agreement that I had written and was living up to. And I kept having a reoccurring dream that all the different versions of myself, people that I knew from living those different versions, I was in the grocery store line and I turned around to get some stuff out of my cart. And there was one of the people. And I was like, oh shit. So I want them to see me. Then I pulled stuff back now. So for instance, there's the person I was doing drugs with the night before. Then I look back, there's the woman that I sang a solo for at church just this morning. Then I look back behind them was a family member. Then there were all these people, and I was afraid they were going to talk to each other. How do you know him? He doesn't know people like you. Da, 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 da. And I would wake up, and I just said, I can't do this any longer.
Yeah.
How did you get to the point, Brett, where you said, you know what? Because a lot of people don't know how to clean it up. You said sweeping under.
Yep.
What did you have to do? What was the starting point? Did you go to people that were closest and say, listen, let me tell you something about me that you don't know? Where did you begin?
Yeah. So number one, and I mentioned when you said, what is the thing? Well, I don't think I was really, being completely transparent. In fact, I know I wasn't, but the one thing I did do, the one thing I'm really proud of, and the one thing I had to do was take responsibility, right? I had to take responsibility. And so, part of the process was I had to go and get a job. Thankfully, I found because I was into fitness, and the company I worked for were the #1 fitness business coaching company. And so my intention in moving to where we did was to start a fitness business, and that hadn't got off the ground yet. So I went and opened a gym. So I had a full-time job, studied as a personal trainer, and the company that I was working for, I repaid the debt by working it off within less than a year. Whilst I was working full-time.
You're talking about that over invoicing?
Yeah, the over invoicing. Yeah.
So you had to pay that back.
Yep. So I worked it off.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So if you invoiced me and it was more than you should have, and I paid it, they had to give that money back to those people. Is that what you're saying?
No. So they had.
Or were you over invoicing the company for yourself?
Yeah, the company for myself. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, over here we call that embezzlement.
Well, it could have been taken that way. Absolutely. Yeah, it could have been taken that way. In fact, if they didn't know, me to the point of how they felt about me, they definitely could have taken it down that road. But the fact that I turned up, I showed up, it was definitely the toughest thing that, one of the toughest things I've gone through was manning up, showing up, and taking the responsibility to pay it back whilst working a full-time job, whilst studying to become a personal trainer. And
now your wife is still with you then?
No. So we broke up. Yeah, she left me as soon as this all broke out. She was not going to stick around, and thank God she didn't. It was the best thing that could have ever happened. I just want to point out one thing. Part of the reason why I ended up there was growing up. My dad was never around, so he's alive. He's still alive to this day, and so I think the thing that I've come to realize is there was an abandonment issue, right? He had a new family, new kids. So I got a half brother and a half sister, and they had a life where they grew up with their mum and dad, and I had my mum. And going through teenage years, there was a lot of things that I haven't yet shared with everyone that I went through. And so that was the starting point. And then, of course, over the years, it just started getting worse and worse and worse. And that's the self-image part, right? And so when when my wife and I broke up, and even before, when I knew I had to go and tell my wife the not so great news, I knew she would leave me. That was a definite. I knew this would be the final thing for her to go, I can't do it anymore. Now, I remember I had friends I came from another city called Melbourne here in Australia. And my friends in Melbourne were saying to me, hey, Brett, this is obviously terrible and obviously crap, but why don't you come home to Melbourne, where I'm from, and rebuild? We'll look after you and we'll help you. And I said, I can't do it. I said, I grew up without a dad, and I'll never do that to my child. And in that moment, I was very happy about that. But I also still thought, what kind of influence am I going to really offer by being that version of myself? And so that's the responsibility part, right, Lauren, where, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew I had to do something better than what I had been doing. And so, like anything where we actually become a new version of ourselves, it takes time.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes in situations just like yours, I mean, so many of us, you guys, we have went down a similar path. And I'm always curious to ask if you understand what do you think? What do you think that motive was that made it seem feasible for that initial approach to everything, which we know how it ended up? But was it because I just want to be successful? I want to fit in. I'm going to show somebody. You'll see when I get there. I mean, I just experienced that because my brother from my adoptive family, who was on the show just last week, the artist, was always so successful. Everything was always about him. And when I was out there floundering through the system and homeless and on drugs, I kept saying, you just wait, I'm going to get out of this. And one day you'll see. And then the day came and I was like, I thought I was going to stay. It was in my mind, it had played out like for decades that I would go, well, look who it is. Can I help you? And I couldn't even get the first for well out.
Yeah.
It wasn't me anymore. So what I'm getting at is,
I know what you're getting at.
Yeah. So we all know where that was. We all know where you are. But what today, why do you think it had to have been that way? Because I don't believe there are mistakes. I believe everything is designed to keep our journeys interesting so that we have that life-changing story in which to change lives with once we get there. So talk about that. What is it? And do you still struggle sometimes? Because I think you do. Still struggle sometimes with, because for instance, I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
Because you said when I had to deliver to my wife the not so great news, when in my mind I was singing a duet with you, and I was saying the ugly truth.
Yeah.
Because it's not my experience, it's yours. So it's easy for me to just throw those three words, the ugly truth. But what I love about it is I don't care what precedes or comes after truth. As long as you get truth in there, you're good. So talk about that. Do you still think it still hurts a little to say, because even that thing, I know you're in another country and you said over invoicing, whereas over here, people were sitting down there going, this sounds awfully close to embezzlement. And I know you've heard that before. But you choose a different. Is it because you're afraid that even though you are a new person, people are still going to try to hold it against you?
Not necessarily. I think
that's good. Yeah.
No.
Did you beat them to it? I mean, as long as they didn't find some secret. So, did I tell you what I found out about Brad? No.
Yeah.
Lead with it. So what?
Do you know? It's, and I know you know this. It's like, I remember when I first started the journey as a coach. I remember people saying to me, "Why do you share all this really personal stuff?" And
sound familiar?
Why do you share all this?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what they're going to do with that? Right.
And I said, well, first of all, it doesn't have a hold over me anymore. Whereas in the past it did. But number two, and the most important reason, right? Like, why did I, when I think about why did I end up there, something that I teach, and I'm sure you have as well, is with anyone that works with me, it's like, you've got to put yourself first, right? You got to put yourself first. You got to be selfish. And the initial thing that most people think of, isn't that the thing you're not meant to do? Aren't you meant to like try and help people? Aren't you meant to do all the good things? And it's like, yes, of course, but you can't help anyone unless you help yourself first. And there's a differentiation, right, in being selfish to get what you want, manipulation. I'm going to do this thing and that's essentially, maybe not to the heightened degrees that some people might go to, like you mentioned the word embezzlement. I don't believe I was consciously aware. Unconsciously doing it, yeah. I just wasn't paying attention on purpose, right? And so was I doing it? The answer is yes. And so the thing that I want to share, though, is that, when it comes to being selfish, there's two different ways of looking at it. The first way is where we're doing the things for me. What can I get out of this situation? Whereas when I think about being selfish now, I think I've got to fill myself up. Like when I read books, I read like every single day. And I don't just read for myself. I read because I want to pass it on, right? And so, yes, I fill myself up so I can overflow, so I can share.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Now that you're doing what you're doing, and I know it would have eventually, it was always there for you. And it's always there for us, there for the taking. We have been chosen from the beginning. But what keeps the conveyor belt from moving these blessings out towards us is that we have not chosen completely in return. So talk about how it makes you feel today. As far as somebody, I know you've heard this. Well, was it worth it? You know what I mean? Talk about that, because I always say to God, I'd go back and I'd live everything I ever had to live to get here over 1,000 times for 5 minutes of what I get every day today, if that's what it took. Because everything that I did, everything that was done to me that led to what I did, which led to what I did to someone else, on and on and on. If I've forgiven them and I've moved on, I have to bless those situations and people and circumstances, because if no other reason, Brett, they led us to this moment together with each other right now. Here we are. So how bad could it have all really been? So talk about purpose. I hear that through and through. It's sprinkled in like a nice spice through all of your recipes that I see out there for the world to go, I like this guy, Brett D. Scott. Talk about why purpose is so important to you today and what it means now that it never meant until now. I'm going to let you take it for a minute.
Yeah. Do you know, I'll tell you, purpose, it's like whenever anyone says, why are you doing what you're doing? It's, and I think I said this to you the other day, Lauren, for me, I would, if I could do what I do without having to be out here doing this, like being in the public view, then I would prefer to do it that way. However, I know that I need to show up because other people need to know that there is another way. And, when I first started the journey, I used to call myself the late bloomer, the world's first late bloomer thought leader. And of course, I wasn't the world's first. However, I didn't see anyone else out there spruiking as being the world's first. So I said, hey, I'll take that I'll take that title. And now since there's been a couple of variations on who I have been, and this image, which I didn't want to be on the cover of my own book, right? That was definitely not a decision that I wanted to do, and not because I don't like who I am and I don't like my look. I do. I like how I look, but the reason that I didn't want to do that necessarily is I want to be about the people. I want it to be about the people going through hopefully not, and you and I might say, well, just like you did a moment ago, sometimes the breakdown is actually really, really necessary. And and I'll say that was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, that breakdown moment. However, would I want to go through it again? Probably not. Probably, if I had to have a choice, would I change it? Absolutely never. I would never change it. It was the best thing that ever happened. However, and I'm sure you would think this as well, and tell me if I'm wrong, the reason I do what I do in part is that I went through a breakdown myself so that other people don't have to, right?
Exactly.
And even in, this is a little bit.
But we don't know that when we're in it.
No, of course not. Of course not. But I think the problem is, I mentioned that word responsibility. The problem is we're a victim in life. Most people going through life are victims. They're blaming the government, they're blaming the system, they're blaming everything.
And then we use that to justify our actions. Well, the world owes me.
The world owes me.
And if I hadn't gone through this, I wouldn't be this desperate.
And I'm sure you've had it. Well, you don't understand, Lauren.
Oh my
you don't
God.
understand.
Yeah.
If you knew what I've been through.
Listen, my mentor used to be Victor Newman from Young and the Restless when I was coming. Yeah, because he would just take a machete and chop down anything that got in his way. I was like, that's how I'm gonna be. Fuck him, But what I had to learn, and I want to know how you feel about this. Do you feel, because I do, and I had to acknowledge it to not live within a world of regret. And what I'm getting at is I really learned that my biggest deficit was patience, because I wasn't willing to wait until I was ready for what was always there for me. I wanted it now. It was like that J.G. Wentworth commercial, and I want it now. That somewhere they're all singing, it's my money and I want it now. It was like that. And when it didn't happen, just like I was always alone. I couldn't find a mate. I couldn't find any for 3 decades. I thought I was just meant to be alone. But that's because I was investing all my time and energy in looking for Mr. Right instead of becoming Mr. Right. And when I changed that's why I said about the motive. What is behind that urgency? I got to have it now, or I want it now. I can't wait. That has a lot to do with it. So what would you say the number one thing that did not serve you was when you were making the transition from sleeping to awakening?
Yep. What was the number one thing that helped me, or the number one thing that's holding me back?
It was not serving you.
Do you know, I think you even just hit the nail on the head in what you just said about trying to make it happen right now, and I often refer, I've had some great levels of success, and, I was when I can, as Steve Jobs
you as happy then, real quick, were you as happy when you hit those levels of success as you are today?
Oh, absolutely not. In fact, absolutely not. In fact, I didn't even think that was success. Right. And, I'll mention a couple of things. Like, I worked my way up from being I think you call them a bellboy in hotels, all the way up to being a chief concierge. I then went and I helped a company called Europe Car, which is a daily car rental company.
Okay.
They just come into Australia, and I helped them to become, I think, number 2 in Australia in the hotel section. I then started my magazine publishing business and did that for nearly 3 years, and took that from being one city to being Australia-wide. I then moved into real estate. I became, in less than 3 years, I was the number 1 real estate agent in the whole state of Victoria, which is one of our states. Yet I didn't believe I had achieved success. And so what I'm going to get to, the answer to this question is that I was looking for the magic bullet. I was looking for, how do I get to this level of success without actually having to do any work? How do I earn all that money without actually having to work for it? And many people are out there doing the same thing, right? They're trying to click their fingers and make it happen. Yet what I tell you now, and in fact, this book took me 3.5 years to get to the point of publishing it and getting it out there. Yet this is my goal that I started back in December of 2018. This is a goal I locked into, not just to write a book, but to write a New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Amazon best-selling book, to sell over 10 million copies. Now, I haven't done that yet, so my goal still hasn't been achieved, and I have no problem with that. I don't care how long it takes me now, but that's part of the journey, right? When you realize there's so much, it's not about, like, success is not the destination. That age-old quote of success is a journey sounds like
success is the perk.
Yeah. Yeah. And success is a moment. Success are the
right.
moments along the way, not
right.
It's not a thing, and so I think part of the journey was really understanding that success is, of course, different to every person, but the thing that that I get to live now is a life of freedom.
Well, I want to ask you before we get out of here. We've got about 3 minutes left, 4 minutes left. I notice you have a theme through your brands. This super, I see superhero, I see supercharged. There it is, scrolling along the bottom. Why is this tell people why this is how you what you use to knock down blocks and serve mankind today?
And I'm going to talk into something you just mentioned before, which is some of these things are predestined, right? So Superman, and you can't see I've got a big collection of Superman stuff over here.
Oh, I bet.
See it. Now, this wasn't something I just picked up and thought, this would be a fun thing to do. No. From the age of 1, in fact, I have a TEDx talk, which I mentioned before. It's called How to Unleash.
We were supposed to watch some of that.
We were. It doesn't matter. You can share the link and people can go and have a look at it. So it's How to Unleash Your Inner Superhero. Now, in that TEDx talk, I share that my mum told me the story over the years that I would nag her to get a Superman costume from the age of 1. And now I was a very, very, very adventurous kid. Even at the age of 3, I left, my mum was at work and my auntie was looking after me. I walked out of the house, walked down to the train line, which is about 1 kilometre or in a couple of miles down the road. I then got on the train, and thankfully, I was only 3. Thankfully, someone thought,
by yourself,
hang on, why is there a little kid standing on the train by himself, and took me to the police station. But so it's very adventurous. Now, at the age of 1 as well, I would nag. My mum said there was no way she was going to buy me a Superman costume because she knew that if I had it, the likelihood was I was going to find a way to climb onto the roof and jump off.
I did that, but it was with a pillowcase. I thought it would be a parachute.
Yeah, well,
she
bought me. Well, I didn't end up in the emergency room. She bought me a Batman costume at the age of 3 because she thought, Batman doesn't fly. He just has a cape. No, Brett thinks Batman can glide, so Batman's going to glide off the roof. And Batman ended up in the rose bush, and so I didn't end up in the emergency room, but I had
it in the driveway like me.
Yeah, no, I was lucky. The roof obviously wasn't that high. So, now, the point about Superman, right? The point about Superman. Why do I show up as that? Well, that was a photo shoot that I did with one of my first clients, and he said, "Bring some fun stuff to the photo shoot." Now, underneath that emblem, because I didn't want to get sued by DC Comics, is a Superman T-shirt, and so it's Clark Kent revealing his Superman emblem. Now, at that point, when I had that photo shoot done, I put the photo up, and then people were like, "Oh my God, that's an amazing photo." And then it hit me. I went, "Oh my gosh, of course. I have gone from being mild-mannered Clark Kent, the old version of Brett D. Scott, to becoming my version of Superman." Now, I've loved Superman for my entire life, and I never really understood why. I just thought it was a childhood thing, which it was in part, but the real thing,
it's more
the real thing, why am I showing up as that? It's that word there. What is Superman known for? He's known for truth and justice, and of course, for you, the American way. He's known for truth and justice. And now those were the 2 things that I was not upholding. Now, they're 2 of the most important things. That's why I do what I do.
There you go. Well, listen, if you guys want to learn more about the truth and about all things super, head over underneath the screen. You'll see the Instagram account for our guest today. And if Facebook is your thing, there is Facebook, and there is also The website, superchargedfreedom.com. And I believe you have brettscott.com, correct?
Yeah, either one. They go to the same place.
Okay.
you're gonna end up in the same place.
Right.
Yep.
So there we go there. And I want you guys to get over and continue the dialogue with our good friend. I want you to come back. There's going to be more. We're going to get you and your friend in Canada back because you guys have a show. Talk about that real quick, about 30 seconds as we get out of here. Tell them about what's coming down the conveyor belt with you and all this other great stuff that's coming.
Yeah. So we have a show which we pitched on David Meltzer's TV show called The 2-Minute Drill, which is a little bit like the Shark Tank. And on that show, we did not win. However, what we did do was we lit a fire. We lit a fire because our show is essentially a positive news talk show. And so what we're going to do is have special guests, probably have Lauren come and share in part of their story. But more importantly, it's about helping people to recognize and realize, just like we've been talking about, that they actually have more control over their life, more control over the outcomes than they realized. And, you know, when we went through one of the toughest moments in history around the globe with that COVID, with that, you know, little thing that we had, most people felt helpless. Most people felt, you know, disconnected. And what we want to do with the TV show is help people to feel connected, help people to know that they actually have more control over their life and to give them some tools. And so we're going to infect people with a positive virus.
Well, when I would change those 2 words, because I'm going to tell you, I ain't trusting shit that says virus or infected. I'm just saying. Listen, I'm just playing with you. Listen, you'll have to come back with your co-host. And what's her name?
Her name is Stacey Van Thune. Stacey Van Thune. She's in Canada.
Right.
So we're in 2 different parts of the world.
We'll have to get the both of you back here. We'll have to get the both of you.
Indeed.
Unfortunately, you guys, we're out of time, but there will be more time for us to do just this, and that is fulfill that promise where 2 or more of us comes together with the same mindset, heart set, and soul set. Spiritual magic is what happens. Today is proof, and tomorrow will be proof yet again. God willing, I'll meet you out front, where tomorrow we head to the UK. Amy Bird, somebody posted one of her light posts is what I refer to them, and it just changed my world instantly. So I tracked her down, so she'll be here tomorrow to pour into all of us. Amy Bird. So listen, Brett, you got to come back. Promise me you and Stacey will come back, and sooner before later, and I will let you guys know when the show is out. Again, superchargedfreedom.com, and we have taken the liberty of dropping all of these links into the show notes, and we'll be dropping them into the comment section immediately upon the conclusion of today's broadcast, which is now. Have a great day, all of you. Thank you again, Brett. Get out there and be that change that you'd like to see in the world. It could be through you that it happens. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing. Have a best one. Bye-bye.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind.